pre-hearing conference in a Act 250 permit application that comes under two Act 250 docket numbers, 4C 0329-24 and 4C 0347-6. The applicant is Allenbrook Development. The project is being called the Saxon Hill 5-lot subdivision. So if you're here for something else, not how you can look. My name is Tom Little. I am the chair of the District 4 Environmental Commission that covers Chittenden County. With me are my fellow commission members, Pamela Loringer to my left and Christopher Callahan to my right. Caitlin Hayes to my left is the District 4 coordinator managing this application, and she is assisted, as are we, by Stephanie Monahan, our other District 4 coordinator. Allenbrook Development proposes to create a 5-lot commercial subdivision on an existing 109.5 acre tract of land, and to construct an approximately 4,100 linear feet of public roadway and a 33,600 square feet warehouse on lot number 11. The purpose of this pre-hearing conference is to get better organized and to better understand the scope of the application, and to understand what the contested issues are, determine on a preliminary basis who the parties are going to be, and putting all that together helps us understand how much time we're going to need to allocate for the merits hearing on one or more days sometime later in the summer. I will get into the purpose and the rules for party status in a bit. But the testimony we will be taking today will be around at a higher level of what the project is proposing, and from individuals who are seeking party status testifying to give us enough information to make a preliminary determination about granting them party status. The application is not seeking approval to construct a project known as the Amazon warehouse. That development will require a separate subsequent Act 250 permit amendment application. The application does request that a decision about allocation of the total vehicle trips for all of the 5 lots in the requested subdivision. I now have to go through a fairly detailed overview of the Vermont open meeting law requirements for holding a hearing of this type, where there are people present in the room and people present remotely. And these are relatively new requirements from the Vermont General Assembly. We are providing public access to the meeting by online video conference and with additional access offered through telephone. We use the Microsoft Teams platform for this hybrid meeting. All members of the commission are present. So we have the ability to contemporaneously communicate and listen and hear, and the public has access to likewise contemporaneously listen and, if desired, participate by either attending in person or downloading the Teams app or calling into the toll-free number. In addition, we've provided public notice of the instructions for accessing our meeting. We gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access using telephone or Microsoft Teams. All of that was in the public meeting notice. That document, including these instructions, have also been provided in the meeting notice on the Act 250 database online. If you're having a problem using Teams on your computer, you can call into the meeting on your telephone at 802-828-7667 and then entering 958-601-365 hashtag. And those numbers are also in the written hearing notice if you need to look them up. If you are participating by phone, press *5 to raise your hand and your microphone will be enabled. Then press *6 to unmute your phone. This meeting is subject to the Vermont open meeting laws. By participating, you are consenting to being audio-visually recorded and for that recording to be published in the Land Use Review Board's online database and/or YouTube channel. In addition, any written information or exhibits provided to us or to the Act 250 staff about official state business are considered public records and will become part of the permanent record to be published in the Land Use Review Board's online database. The chat function has been disabled for this hearing on the Teams platform. The hearing is being recorded, including any noises, barking dogs, personal conversations, etc., made when your microphone is not muted. Therefore, please mute your microphone when not speaking. If you would like to speak during the hearing, please raise your hand if you are in the hearing room with us. If you are participating on Teams, please use the raise hand feature located in the toolbar at the top center of your screen. And as I said earlier, we've given out instructions on how to be recognized to speak if you're using your phone. For the audiovisual record and for the benefit of those participating solely by telephone, please state your name before speaking and, if relevant, your street address. Finally, and this is important, please do not log into Microsoft Teams on a computer or other device and then participate on your phone at the same time, because that will cause very distracting audio feedback that can greatly disrupt the hearing. So we're now going to do a roll call of everybody here in the hearing room and on participating remotely. And when I read your name, just raise your hand so we can spot you. Lois Whitmore, you. Patty Davis, Susanna Polvote, thank you. Ken Signorello. Okay. Dwayne Barlow. Thank you, Wayne. Logan Allen. Okay. Lisa Allen. Ann Miller. Brian Courier. Nicole Senecal. Robert Rushford. Gina Barrett. Lorraine Zaloom. Nick Ovett, Cheryl Van Epps. Okay, got it. And who do we have participating remotely?
We have Scott Dillon from VDHP, and we have Irene Renner and Jared Carter, who I'm not sure if they are representing a group. Do you want to give them an opportunity to speak if they are representing a group?
Irene Renner. And who? The other one?
Jared Carter.
We'll get to them. I'm reminding everyone here and online that if you are requesting party status or anyone else who would like to continue to receive documents associated with this application, you must provide us with an email address or a mailing address. And I think almost everyone has done that here. So if you need to supplement the sign-in sheet before you leave, do so. Or you can email the district office to Caitlin's attention. And you can find an email address for that office email in the official notice for this hearing. We have, each of the three of us has reviewed all of the materials submitted with the application and thought about the individuals who have signed in for the hearing, in part with an eye towards identifying any conflicts of interest or potential conflicts of interest that one of us might have. And we are not aware of any conflicts of interest that need to be disclosed at this time. And if anyone feels differently or has a question about that, now would be the time to ask it. Once we are done today, if you have any reason to communicate with the commission, you must flow through Caitlin, the district coordinator, and not directly to us or through some other party. I'm going to say another thing about the nature of the pre-hearing conference, because this tends to come up as we get moving along again. The purpose of the pre-hearing conference, we generally use it for an application that looks like it might be more complicated than some that we do, or it might have lots of parties and might present some scheduling challenges. Our commitment is to schedule and hold the merits hearing as soon as reasonably possible to keep the process moving along. When we ask for your testimony today concerning party status, what we will be asking for is the criteria under Act 250, for example, air pollution or traffic, that you have a concern about the potential impacts of the subdivision on you, your property, your enjoyment of your property. That testimony can be relatively concise. What we're looking for is a cause and effect connection that you are concerned about and can articulate sort of that cause and effect relationship to you and your property. When we finish today, we may make those preliminary party status decisions today. We may deliberate on them. What we often do is grant party status on a preliminary basis for the purposes of the merits hearing. And then when we finish the merits hearing, sometimes it turns out that someone who said that they were going to present detailed testimony on a particular impact criteria, in fact, when we got into their testimony, it didn't demonstrate that. So we sometimes remove party status on a criterion by criterion basis at that point. Does anyone have any questions about that drill, that process? If you do during the course of it, please raise your hand and we'll take it up at that time. We conducted a site visit earlier this morning to get the lay of the land, observe some significant natural features, look at the roadway adjacent 117. We walked from the bottom of the road all the way up to where it, I guess the back end of lot I'm going to get this right. Just bear with me. 11 and 12 up in that area. Then we walked all the way back down, and there were people involved in the site walk who I pointed to things that they wanted us to look at, and we looked at those. And the process gave us a clear understanding of the proposed project that you generally can't get from looking at the site plans and other documentation. The next step here is I'm going to administer oaths and then ask the applicant to give us a brief overview of the project. We know it. We've read all the materials. We've been to the site. We've looked at the site plans, but it's important to do that in the public hearing. So anyone who expects that they're going to address us this morning, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony or evidence that you shall provide relative to the consideration of this application shall be truthful, accurate, and complete under the pains and penalties of perjury? If so, answer, I do.
I do.
And who was that saying I do remotely?
Scott Dillon.
Jared.
And Irene Renner and Jared Carter, did you wish to be sworn in?
I don't plan to speak. Thank you.
I may speak as needed. I did do the oath and said I do. So
okay, thank you.
Well, we have folks unmuted. Tom, can I get Jared and Irene's contact information? I need to get their email addresses.
Sure.
Okay.
I can do it right now.
Or I can do it whatever's best for you. I just need to flag that we make sure we get their contact info before we end.
Well, we might forget later. So Jared, could you give us your email address?
absolutely, it's my first name Jared K and then Carter, all one word, at gmail.com.
And what is your mailing address? Or where's your home? Your home address?
Sure, 65 Oakland Terrace, Burlington, Vermont, 05408.
And Irene, I take it you were not seeking party status at this time.
I am not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So the applicant, please give us a concise overview of the proposed project. We have on the screen a version of the site plan. Go right ahead.
Brian Courier, Larry Burksville Associates, representing Allenbrook Development. Just like to talk a little bit about the fact that this is a dual Act 250 permit number application. Doesn't come up often. The rationale behind it is the 4C0347 number comes from a old subdivision, commercial subdivision, and this is the lower two lots in the application owned by SH2 LLC and Pam Scherner and the Lee family, is covered by the 4C0347 permit. The permitting history on that number was originally approved what was called Chatham Place at the time, which was a 33 lot commercial subdivision that was never constructed. And then the permitting history basically exits with a 1 million cubic yard sand extraction operation on those parcels. The other number is 4C0329. That is the Saxon Hill Industrial Park number, which is applicable to the Allenbrook Development landowner and the applicant for the application. That number has a long land use history going back to the -20 series. A settlement agreement was done between the current landowner in the town of Essex. that implemented a local zoning requirement that 40% of the land be utilized for industrial development and 60% of the land be protected for conservation. Makes up what they call the RPDI, Resource Preservation Industrial District. Basically, the -20 series implemented a master plan to designate those areas moving forward. So parcels
by lot numbers for the proposed subdivision, which are in which of those dash permits?
So the lots proposed within the subdivision are within the 4C0329 permit. We're only constructing road through the 4C0347 permit. So the two lower parcels that are owned by SH2 and the Scherner and Lee family, we're simply constructing the roadway through those parcels. That's why those are involved land. Both landowners are part of the application. And then once we cross over onto the Allenbrook side, the 5-lot subdivision and the remainder of the public road is being constructed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So within that -20 series, designated parcels A, B, C, and D. Parcels A and B were the 40% that was intended for industrial development, makes up about 130, 140 acres. And the balance would be parcels D and C, makes up about 270 acres. Those two land, substantial acreage was dedicated to the town, I believe, in 2016, is where most of the recreational trails, primarily mountain biking, take place in this area. So the -20 series set the stage for the future development out in the Saxon Hill Industrial Park. Then came the -21 series, which was the phase 1 construction. This included the extension of Thompson Drive, roughly 2,000 feet, and the construction of Red Pine Circle. That included a 9-lot subdivision, 8 commercial lots. The 9th was the balance of parcel B. That was done 7-8 years ago. And then if we fast forward to -24, that's this application. So this is the most southern extent of parcel B. Is designated for future industrial development. We're proposing a 5-lot subdivision within the southern portion of parcel B, 4 commercial lots, plus the 5th lot again is the remaining lands of parcel B, which includes roughly 70 acres. As part of this application, we're proposing to construct 4,100 linear feet of public road down from 117 up to the southern portion of parcel B. That includes a spur road to industrial zone land east of this development that does not have prior Act 50 jurisdiction to it. The proposal also includes municipal sewer connections, municipal water connections, natural gas, and power. The project also includes a left turn lane on 117 down where our new intersection of the new road being called Chemo Drive intersects with Vermont 117. Also included in the application is the development of one of the 4 commercial lots within phase 2. That would be lot 11, roughly 6 acres. On that parcel, we're proposing a roughly 33,000 square foot warehouse facility. It includes truck docks, overhead doors, outdoor storage facilities, and about 50 parking spots. So the use proposed for that building is warehouse currently. It's just a spec building. We don't have a tenant yet, for the time being.
Okay. Thank you.
Tom, could I just ask a quick question? On the maps that we've got, at least that I have, you've got proposed lot number 9. That's the remainder of the project?
That's the remainder of parcel B. So the developable portions of the Saxon Hill Industrial Park based on the -20 series are parcels A and B. So lot 9, which is roughly 70 acres, is the remaining lands at parcel B. And then parcel A is on the corner of Allen Martin and Thompson, the northwest corner.
So, but there are 2 parcel Bs, or the parcel B is 2 pieces?
It's all cumulative. So there's a 60-foot strip.
Just three.
That connects.
Three.
If you look at the overall, maybe it's best to put the overall plan on it. Feet 2, I'm not sure what exhibit, but the location plan shows the designations pretty well.
I see the four that we're talking about, which you've got on here as
Yep.
10, 11, 12, and 13.
Correct.
Number 9, the lots just, the
Yep.
lines just go off into space.
Yep.
And now I'm looking at the little thing. Is parcel C part of 9?
Nope, parcel C is conserved land that's been dedicated to the town.
And lot 9 is not contiguous to the other 4, is that
That's correct, but it bisects lots it bisects lots C and D that have been left for conservation purposes, are owned by the town currently. So there's a 60-foot strip that connects the southern portion of parcel B with the northern portion of parcel B.
I think where I'm having some confusion here is the letters and the numbers.
Yeah,
So
so
what, I mean, they don't really, and they're not really, I read a lot of these plans, we all do. I'm not really following where they are.
it's a sort of a weird lot configuration.
Is there a plan that shows what we're leaving behind?
Yep.
What lot 9 is?
Yep, so there's so I think this shows it pretty well. So lot 9, where you see it's labeled site, and parcel B, it's hatched darker on the most southern extent of parcel B. Right, in the southeast corner.
The one in the center, that parcel B?
Well, so the parcel B includes this lobe, right? There's a parking lot right here that the town uses for.
Is that part of lot 9?
Yes, it is. Yep, so lot 9 includes this strip, okay? It includes this area, and it includes this area. There's currently a sand extraction operation on parcel B here. This land cannot be developed based on a settlement agreement with the town until this sand pit is closed. All right, so parcel B is this entire irregular shaped parcel, okay? D is the balance on this side of the right of way. C is the balance on this side of the right of way. Parcel A is up in this corner, not terribly relevant for right now.
But where's lot 9?
Lot 9, basically, is a subdivision line that gets made right here at the end of our new public road that's run down towards 117. Lot 9 is the balance of parcel B, so it'll be this lobe, this 60-foot strip, and this lobe here.
Is there anything that shows that on a plan?
There's a subdivision plat in the materials.
There is.
Yeah.
Okay, and that says that's lot 9.
Yeah.
But not on the things we've given out today.
On the overall plan, it's a big parcel, so.
So we didn't walk anywhere near that.
You
right?
didn't walk anywhere near that. Were you, if you wanna, you pull it up one more time.
Oh, one. Oh, sorry, we got it.
The furthest we got today was about right here.
Okay.
All right, so it's another about 3,000 feet till you get to the end of Thompson Drive is constructed to right here.
So but you're looking for permission to access both the lot from the other end as well?
Nope, the road comes up from the bottom and the 5-lot subdivision occurs right here. So the access road is down to 117. What we're calling phase 3 would be the construction of this roadway and the development of this portion of parcel B.
But that's lot 9, and you're asking us for permission to subdivide that off today.
No,
In
lot
this
9 is remaining lands.
Just
So at
remaining.
some point in the future, we'd be back in front of you.
All right,
Probably be dash 30 by then, for
I get it.
the subdivision.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Also, if anyone who's sitting, if you want to move your chair so you have a better view, please feel free to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to not finish the hammering on this one yet. Proposed lots 10, 11, 12, and 13 are all on the portion of parcel B that's at the bottom right corner.
That's correct.
Got it, okay.
It's it's certainly an irregular shaped lot.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So I'm now going to walk again through the party status requirements. Let's start out by saying there's three ways that an individual can participate. Actually, four ways. I hate when people start out saying that, but some entities or persons are parties by right or statutory parties. So the state of Vermont and its agencies, the town select board, municipal planning commission, regional planning commission, the owner of the property is a party automatically. The next is the person may be admitted as a party if they can show a particularized interest, maybe not absolutely unique, but specific to them, that may be affected by the project and demonstrate that their interest is related to one or more of the Act 250 criteria. Those who are admitted as parties can participate in the hearing. They can ask questions of other witnesses. They can offer their own testimony. And if they don't agree with the commission's decision in all respects, they can appeal it into the environmental court. Then you can also participate in what's called a friend of the commission. You can offer your concerns and thoughts about the project without being a party, and which means you don't have the rights that I mentioned earlier, but you can tell us, you can speak to us. And then last but not last and maybe least is that you don't have to do any of those things. You can just be here and listen and watch and get more informed about the project. Party status is decided on an issue by issue basis, so you don't get party status for everything that Act 250 covers. You need to make that cause and effect articulation on a criterion by criterion basis. So when I call upon you, please identify yourself, where your property is located in respect of the parcel that we've been discussing, and identify each of the Act 250 criteria under which you believe the project will adversely affect you or your property. We may ask you questions about that. As I said earlier, we may make some initial decisions about that today. We may reserve them until we deliberate after we recess the hearing. And then once we have done the party status determinations, we'll engage in a discussion about how much time we think this will take for a hearing, how many hours, if there are any witnesses that may need to participate from out of state remotely, and anything else that we need to do in order to assure that the hearing that we scheduled is going to be one that hears all the evidence and gives us everything we need to do to make an informed decision. So I'm just going to call you out by the order in which you signed the sign-in sheet, which also has a place on it where you can list the criteria that you wanted to be considered for party status with Lois Whitmore. Lois, could you explain where you live in relation to the project site?
I'm representing two people. I'm representing Acres, which is a nonprofit organization, and I'm representing myself. So which,
Where do you live?
I live on, 178 Old Stage Road.
And where is that in relation to the property,
That is
the site?
above, where Tower Road
I'll need to pull up that.
intersects, it's above, Tower Road running parallel to 15. Towards the top of, we call the top of Sand Hill.
Do you want me to pull up a Google map and show you?
Excuse me?
Would you like me to pull up a Google map and show you?
I mean, I think I know, your old stage road cuts off at 15. But how far down or up Old Stage Road are you from 15?
The distance from Tower Road extends from 15 is what, maybe less than 3 miles?
On your, Lois, just from your party status request form, you said that you live approximately 5 miles from the project site. Is that correct? Just a,
From the, so, yeah.
7, 8.
And you mentioned an organization that you need to explain to us.
The spokesperson for ACRES, which is an acronym, the Alliance of Concerned Residents Envisioning Solutions, which is a new nonprofit organization organized in June, committed to safeguarding our community's natural resources, promoting sustainable development, and ensuring the voices of local stakeholders are heard. Our membership consists of residents, property owners, business representatives, and professionals, representing a broad cross-section of the town of Essex, united by a shared vision of responsible growth and environmental stewardship.
When we conclude this pre-hearing conference, what we do is to send out a pre-hearing conference recess order, which typically asks for more information, and we'll probably ask for more information about that. The key to party status would be showing that those members of that organization each have a particularized interest in the impacts from this project, and showing what your authority is to represent all those people.
I have a list of signed petitions for party status for members of the group, their addresses. I actually have a packet of things. Do you want them? Some of them are here.
Well, the ones who are here can seek party status for themselves. The ones who are not here, I'm not sure can seek formal party status without having filed the party status petition request, unless they have all filed party status petition requests.
I have
How many are there?
7.
7, okay. And on what criteria are they, each of them requesting party status?
We're looking at criterion 1, 5, 8, 7, and 10.
And at least for yourself, could you articulate the particularized interest that you have discerned between the subdivision permit request and the impact on you and your property? Starting, I guess, with criterion number 1.
When I go to the grocery store, when I go to the doctor, when I go to the interstate, when I go to visit friends in Heinsberg, I have to travel down Tower Road and then onto Sand Hill Road and pass on to get to those places, or to get into town, going onto Route 15 into the Essex Shopping Center and then further into Berlin. So the traffic right now has increased enormously in our area because we're getting a lot of traffic from Milton in our area as it stands. And the weight of the traffic light is fairly significant. I also live on a school bus route, and I discovered that there were, at the intersection of Sand Hill and Tower Road, Route 128, 115, is a nexus through which most of the school buses pass. The school bus garage is on Founders Road, right near Founders Middle School. And all of the buses issue from there and distribute themselves in several different directions. Early hours in the morning, later in the afternoon. Some of the afternoon bus routes actually go through and into Corporate Drive and Allen Martin Drive. We're also getting a new bus route as a result of the education decisions by the Essex West School District, which is bringing out a bus from Westford down Sand Hill Road, going down through that same corner and intersection. I was kind of curious how that traffic interfaced with the heavy industrial traffic that's moving up, because there are an awful lot of trucks coming that direction and going down. I asked the State Department of Transportation about a traffic light at the Sand Hill intersection with Route 15, and discovered that it was on deck for 2027 to 28, and that they were notifying landowners this summer. But there's no control for the traffic around the schools and the school activities. The traffic studies do not seem to reflect the actual lived traffic experience. There's a Montessori school right there. There's a public library. There's a church, Sand Hill Park, which has summer programs. Kids walk from the Essex Elementary School on 128 down to the swimming pool. And there's a new daycare center, which has two playgrounds that are on Route 15, which is subject to all of the incredibly awful smells from the truck traffic. And that concerns me. I mean, as a parent, you have to think about what the safety of children and parents is, and I don't know that they have been represented in terms of the long-term impacts and effects of this kind of traffic on their development.
So I think you've given us an articulation about, I think, traffic, which is number 5, and to some extent about 1, which is air pollution. That leaves 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10. What do you have to say about those?
Well, I think that part of the reason that we're living in Essex is because we really value the natural environment. My particular road has just been declared in the past few years a scenic byway, in which the heights of buildings is controlled because of use. And we're lucky enough to enjoy a great deal of wildlife moving through our yards. It's less than it has been. You see a lot more roadkill as a result of the traffic, whether it's turtles, being killed crossing the road, or whether it's skunks and ermines. But I'm concerned. When I moved in 26 years ago, there were cows grazing on the corner. There are cows now, but they're moved back into different lots. And it isn't the quiet neighborhood that it was before things got subdivided. I think that a lot of people who moved into the older subdivision welcome and appreciate the wildlife habitat that is characteristic of their neighborhoods, just as I do. I was very sad to discover that we lost some of the species of flowers when a house across from me was recently built.
How do you, have we received it? We haven't received anything from the town about under
Haven't
six.
received anything from the town.
Okay. One of the criterion you mentioned is the impact on the town's ability to provide education services, which is typically, the town will get back, they'll file something with us about that,
Well,
which is
it's a
typically,
safety-
which is typically concerns about whether a residential subdivision will generate more students than the town school system can accommodate.
I think the question, particularly with Weatherford and the uncertainty about what's going to happen with that school, does raise that issue, because its future is certainly a question. I mean, this first movement into busing, it's oldest students to play school.
The train is about to come by, so.
Jared had his hand raised, he put it down, but maybe after this, we could just turn it up.
But, you know, the Montessori school and the Hartburg school are not part of the public system. And they serve an awful lot of people. In fact, the Hartburg has increased its outdoor playground space to accommodate the number of people. So that's a bunch of really young kids playing. Any particular.
Do you think that's more of an impact from traffic than on schools' educational services?
I don't know. I really don't know. I know that certainly the Montessori school provides a lot of preschool programs for the public schools under the preschool voucher program. But it's not part of the public school system. I don't know who speaks to that.
Then you also mentioned drop down 7. Aesthetics, which is criterion number 8. What is the effect of the subdivision's impacts on you and your property under aesthetics?
We plant trees in my family. We don't cut them down. We value the screening and the functional properties of erosion control that a really well forested area represents. And the kind of casual attitude towards landscaping as opposed to forestation and reforestation is concerning to me. Some of the models of street facing buffers have not been particularly satisfactory in those respects.
And then the number 10, which is local and regional plans.
Well, the nature of this particular district is supposed to harmonize nature and economic development. But if you're prioritizing development over the natural aspects of it, I don't see that as a balanced approach. It's not in keeping with what the town has needed to. And certainly as we move towards infilling with housing and more development, the importance of this very unusual zoning approach, which is looking for real balance and maintaining the values of the community, needs to be, firmly insisted on and expressed. I see that as an obligation to the town, not an option.
Are you aware of any language in the town plan that speaks in sort of mandatory language as opposed to more aspirational.
Yes, I really do. I see that it uses the word shall, and shall is an imperative. You shall do this, Ten Commandments and all that.
And what is the,
It's not
what,
saying you might, or you could, or maybe if you think about it, or you have the option, it says shall.
in the, what is at the other end of the shall? Is it shall,
Shall be the balance. Environment.
because we've get the environmental court and the Supreme Court has been very active in recent years discussing town plan language. And so we look at that pretty carefully to see whether it's sort of mandatory in the sense that it addresses what to happen on a specific piece of property as opposed to what the town is supposed to achieve over the whole expanse of the town. So that's something we need to
Well,
ponder.
there are two things. There's the town plan, then there's the articles.
Apologize for the. Usually on Tuesday. Okay, well, thank you. We'll move, apparently we had a hand raised from you, Mr. Carter.
Yes. So just briefly, I'm an attorney here in Vermont, and I have met with and provided some advice to the Acres group that Ms. Whitmore just highlighted. And I want to bring to the commission's attention the materials that they filed early this morning, I believe, via email, the directed email address. That includes, I think, many of the required documents for a petition for party status for a group, and also sets forth in some detail the various criteria, which Lois just covered, I think, on behalf of herself and on behalf of the group, with respect to each of the criteria and the impact. As the commission will see, it does go into some detail. It and lists all 26, I believe, maybe now 27 Essex residents and their addresses, and the impacts on them. It does not, and I guess we're pulling it up now, it doesn't get down to the level of minutia of connecting each of the critiques or concerns under the criteria to each individual resident and member. But certainly that can be accomplished as needed, and we understand the burden on the petitioning party to obtain party status. But we think this lays out really the key criteria that are of concern. And I would just note briefly, if I may, and I think maybe somebody else will speak to this more later, perhaps a member of the community, but my understanding is that the zoning regulations in Essex invoke the town plan and are therefore part of those regulatory requirements, which I think is different than some other communities. And so we think that town plan, or the group thinks that town plan piece under criteria 10 is of particular import. But I just wanted to bring that document to the commission's attention and highlight those pieces beyond what Lois just did.
Are you formally representing Acres?
I have not signed a retainer agreement, but I have advised them at their initial meetings, and I anticipate doing that shortly. They have authorized me to speak here now in this capacity.
Okay, so just to be clear, Mr. Cooper, you're not, are you here on behalf of Acres or on your own or both?
I think both. Yep.
Well, Mr. Carter, what is your offering of party status? Are you seeking party status on for yourself?
No, I'm simply here to provide some additional clarity on what Ms. Whitmore shared with respect to the Acres Group as their attorney. I'm looking for party status myself. I just wanted to draw the materials that they submitted to the commission's attention because I recognize that this is part of the petition process and y'all are going to be going through the decision making on whether or not to grant party status to the group and individuals.
But you're providing legal advice to Acres, but you're not entering your appearance on behalf of Acres in this proceeding?
Not at this point.
Or are you?
Not at this
Well, you
point.
got to make,
No.
you need to make, I think you need to make up your mind pretty quick about that.
Yeah, I do
That's what
represent
one of the-
Acres. Yes, I'm entering my appearance on behalf of Acres. Yes. Been authorized to do that.
And do we have those individual party status petitions on behalf of
We,
all of those members, and when were they filed?
I would have to go back and check. We had 8 that were submitted by last night, and there were, I think, 4 more that came in, and we did get the Acres documentation this morning. I have not had a chance to look through any of it yet.
So just to be clear, Ms. Whitmore, we can clearly accept and consider your testimony for party status on behalf of yourself, but you cannot speak on behalf of the other people who have filed those petitions. Those petitions will, unless they are also here, will have to stand on their own merits.
So I just want to, we did receive, I just want to share this document was also submitted this morning. So I'm not sure if this changes anything, but just to share this with people.
Yeah, I'm not sure it does.
Okay.
My understanding according to the law is that we need to have a resolution by unanimous.
So could you state your name?
My name is Ann Miller. But according to what I read in the law, we need to have a resolution by unanimous consent naming a legal spokesperson for Act 250 proceedings. It's not that we're naming like a spokesperson for everything, but for Act 250 proceedings, Lois was unanimously affirmed as being that spokesperson. And of course, we have documentation to that effect, and all of those individuals signed electronically. There were also meeting minutes, there were organizational minutes that were submitted electronically to you all to affirm the original organization of Acres, and we are registered with the state of Vermont. We have a nonprofit status with the IRS.
I still think we have, I'm trying to discern the distinction between a legal, could you scroll back up to the top? Not the minutes, but whatever you had up there before.
And Dwayne Barlow, just as commenting as a friend, isn't it the case that an individual can be, or an organization, a corporation, according to the law? Isn't that clearly stated?
Well, yes. Similarly, like a homeowners association can become
Or
a party.
organization?
The question I'm trying to zero in on is whether Ms. Whitmore, as if appointed or designated as a legal spokesperson, can offer testimony on the particularized impacts of the proposed project on properties of other people who have filed party status positions, but who are not here to testify on their own behalf. That's what I don't think is yet entirely clear.
If I may, my understanding of the law here is that under the rules that allow for an organization as an individual to petition for party status, they must appoint a spokesperson and designate them to speak on behalf of the group. That's the process that Acres went through with Ms. Whitmore, and I think what she was speaking to earlier.
Well, this is something we'll probably ask for some written guidance on when we issue a pre-hearing conference recess order. This is not something that we deal with very frequently, and nor when we get it as we've gotten it now. Just in terms of the timing, we haven't had a chance to process this.
Understood. And the group would be happy to provide additional briefing as necessary.
Going to call on Patty Davis next. And the same questions. You have requested party status fell under criteria 1, 5, and 7.
Yes.
And could you tell us, connect the dots there with the cause and effect?
Take it easy. I just drew his little map. So here's his subdivision that he's talking about. This is Hillside Circle. So this is Route 117, this is Lower Sand Hill Road. Down here, and then Hillside Circle is midway up, kind of. And Hillside Circle is like a U that abuts and overlooks Sand Hill Road. We are, if you look at that U, we are not here at the tip. We are like 5 houses in. But I grew up in Colchester.
Looking at what's on the screen, Ms. Davis, can you walk up there and point out?
This is Sand Hill right here.
Oh, yeah, I know my way around. I used to be on the planning commission. Okay, so.
You might need to see the location.
So Sand Hill Road, okay.
Location.
If you go back to this map,
Scroll to the right.
you go back to this map with the bubbles.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me just zoom in here a little bit more.
There you go to this map. Perfect. Okay, stop. So see this little U? This right here, see all these little squares? That's like 300 homes. Okay, all those little squares. Mine is like, there's a little U somewhere in the middle here. Okay, and we have all these little roads in here. And we're a very athletic family. We moved here, I'm from Colchester. My husband and I were like the fastest couple runners in Vermont a long time ago. And now we bike because we're getting older. And we leave, our house, like the driveway. My husband's he races even. He's trying to raise money for Bristol Myers cancer patients. He's still working. I'm retired. So we go out here on Saxon Hollow. We go out here and we go down Sand Hill Road, risking our lives. There is a 1-foot white line and a curb. There are grates in the road. And I need to use fat tires because I'm 64 and I'm too scared. But my husband, being a bike racer, okay, has a light on the front of his bike, a light on the back, a proximeter underneath. He's dressed in lime green like a Christmas tree going down the hill. Broad daylight. He's coming down the hill because he likes to train on Route 2. So that's why we moved here. We moved here because this is a bedroom community and Saxon Hill's not that far for running. We're not real into trails and mountain biking. We like road biking. So Sam's over Memorial Weekend, down the hill, we saw Sand Hill Road. Take a left, 117, biking along. Sunny day over Memorial Weekend. There's a million cars waiting on North Wilson Road, which is this way. Okay, here's Sand Hill. He's on 117. The truck driver, it's kind of a big pickup, was pulling a flatbed and had his window down. And Sam kind of nodded at him, yeah, I acknowledge it, yeah, because he's experienced. And 50 feet away, he's going 25 miles an hour, 50 feet away, this truck pulls out to take a left because he saw an opening on 117. We're not gonna get a light till 2027, hello? I mean, this bedroom community's been here for 50 years. You know, we're not on a truck route, we're not on a state highway. This truck pulls out, pulling the flatbed. By the time the flatbed comes out, Sam's slamming his brakes. He would have tumbled into that flatbed, fallen into that flatbed. Had he not hit a little bit of gravel, you know, he's got good balance. He's still in good shape for 64, but you know how the back tire kind of swerves out? That's what saved his life. Why should there be another bike accident? The other biker in 2019, who I'm friends of them, he's from Czechoslovakia, lives on the other side of the Cirque Highway where the darn trucks should be going. They should be on the Cirque where there's no houses. Right on the other side of that Cirque, there's a guy.
Just to get to the issue that we need to resolve today for your party status request, you saying that you think that the subdivision will generate traffic that will have an adverse effect on you and your property?
Absolutely,
Okay,
we're athletic.
that's, I'm just saying, that's what we,
We want to get to 117 in one piece.
okay. How about air and water or municipal services?
Sure.
You also asked about those.
Okay, so air. So my background is ophthalmology. So I did some little medical research too, but I'm retired. And back in 2023, when I came to you guys for the 4C0329-24 permit application, I went on and on about, you know, the studies that the research UVM Transportation Research Department did on proximity to roads. So all these homes, not only do they hear the noise and get woken up in their sleep with all these semis going up, that causes, there's papers out there, I don't have them with me, but that sleep deprivation and getting woken up a million times causes all sorts of health issues. How it affects me, running up and down Sand Hill, my husband running 10 miles a day on sidewalks that are not, you know, kept up by the town. You'll see that in my packet. That's my packet right there if you want to hand it in. And, you know, we're health conscious, we're healthy. Our daughter comes and bikes with my husband and they bike to Route 2 together. You know, they're my family. I have my family in that packet. So take your time to look through it. So air pollution, I want to breathe, I'm a runner. I want to stay in one piece biking. I don't want to breathe in those fumes. This is a residential community. Essex is a highly educated community. One of the highest educated communities in all the 19 municipalities. We are one of the highest. Everybody in our circle works from home. They want to recreate. They moved here to work from home, to have a quality of life, and you're ruining it. Not you, but this application is ruining our quality of life. Why should we spend $850,000 to move back to Colchester, where I'm from? That's how much it would cost me to get a house that I have.
What do you say about criterion 7, municipal services?
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to just stay up here? I'm on a roll. I have it right here. It's real quick. Sure. It's in my application, right on the front page.
And I guess if there's anything in addition to the application you want to supplement at this
Sure.
point.
I left the planning commission because of everything Lois said. Lois, our leader, that I thought when I was on the planning commission, this is from memory now, so it's a little while, a couple of years, a year and a half. Article 1, the authority of our subdivision and zoning regulations are that the town is obligated to follow the town plan and 4302, which preserves the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. We have a right, according to that article, to preserve our health, have our safety, and go down. This is not a state highway. This is a road with no sidewalks, 1 foot and that curve, and then these darn drains that I almost killed myself driving over, because you can't do the new law 4 feet and have a semi pass you. And the issue I have with number 7 with municipality is I have proof in my packet that the municipality, the select board, purposely rerouted the semi trucks from Route 15 to Lower Sand Hill as an access. I have proof. I had to go through 10,000 photos, but I threw everything away thinking we were moving back to Colchester. But I went through all the photos and I found the document. And guess what? It was scrubbed by I don't know, someone in leadership scrubbed it and replaced it with a December 7th written in red blurb about we're getting, traffic study, blah, blah, blah. Traffic studies only measure level of service. They don't measure quality of life, impacts on residents. And that's why I'm here. I'm here because of my husband. He almost got killed, and that is just not right. Any more questions?
Thank you. That's good.
Thank you.
Susanna Paul.
I'll be brief. Can I have
Good
the
morning.
lot now?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. Because it's super easy to show you where I am.
So,
Good day for going hours, isn't it? Okay, so this is 117, right? Am I reading this right? And
yes,
this is chemo,
yes.
and this is me. Susanna William Holgood, actually, that's my middle name. So in terms of the traffic effects, Sand Hill traffic, River Road traffic, Chemo Drive traffic, we're surrounded by it on all sides. So that's criteria number 5, and then criteria number 8, the wildlife. I mentioned this in my petition, but we have just this morning turkeys, a couple weeks ago bear, groundhog, all sorts of animals, birds and things like that. So I feel like I'll be pretty directly impacted also with the creek running through right there. And that's
Say
it.
a little
Yeah.
bit more about the impact of the subdivision on wildlife.
Yeah, so I listed all the different animals in my application for party status. But the animals, as I understand it, especially based on the bear sightings, the bear is very active throughout this whole area on either side of Sand Hill Road. Presumably with the dirt road being here, this is a little bit easier for animals to cross than would be, paved road with a lot of traffic on it. We see deer crossing our yard in both directions. The turkeys and whatnot are living, in this crevice coming up. The groundhog is living in this crevice and coming up. We see foxes, gray and red foxes coming back and forth across our yard as well.
Thank you.
Okay, and may I leave without waiving my application for party status?
May you what?
May I leave? I have a
Oh,
work
yes, you
application.
may.
Okay, thanks.
Next would be Ken Signorello. Good morning.
Morning. I live about 1.6 miles north of, Whitmore on Brigham Hill Road. I believe I listed 2 criteria, one being traffic and pollution.
You wrote on this sign-in sheet 1, 5, and 7.
I mean, what those are.
Well, 1 is air and water pollution, 5 is traffic, and 7 is municipal services.
I'll do municipal services first, since I heard what you said about that earlier. My concern there is that any public road will require, the municipality to maintain it in the long run, and that will impact on municipal services. On the pollution side, the new road will need to be heavily salted. It slopes downward toward 117, and to prevent trucks from sliding onto 117, there will be a tremendous amount of salt that will have to be applied. This is demonstrated by Sand Hill Road and the neighboring road that's currently being used. And the Public Works Director has indicated that they have to heavily salt it to prevent trucks from sliding out onto 117. That will, of course, lead right into the Niskey River, which will then lead right into Lake Champlain. Of course, all residents of the state of Vermont are affected by pollution of Lake Champlain. That's the pollution and traffic wise. Now, even though I am remote from this site, I live on Brigham Hill Road, which is a through road to Milton. So additional traffic that would like to access Milton for deliveries and such will add heavy traffic, more heavy traffic onto Brigham Hill Road, which is a dirt road if you don't know anything about it. It's a very rural road, a lot of walking. And so my concern is that there will be traffic, not due to this subdivision per se, but one thing referred to, the Amazon plant that will be coming later, will increase a lot of deliveries along Brigham Hill Road. Thank you.
What, say a little bit more about where Brigham Hill Road is. I'm not personally familiar with it, if you
I want
can.
to zoom out a bit or bring up a.
This is, I can bring up, like,
It's not gonna be.
yeah, hang on, let me pull.
What's it near?
Tower Road is, and the intersection of Tower Road and Old Stage Road, where Lois is near, actually Colonel Page Road. Brigham Hill Road is on the opposite side. If she's on a corner, thank you. We have, that should do it. Here's Old Stage Road, so Brigham Hill Road.
This is just generally Brigham Hill
Yeah,
Road, I'm not sure.
I have my house pretty much right there. That's pretty close. That's on, oh, this is actually the country club is on Old Stage Road, yes, so this is Brigham Hill Road. And, I'm right about where that market is.
So say a little bit more about the
Traffic?
connection between the
Zoom out.
subdivision and traffic on your road.
A little more? So Brigham Hill Road, even though you can't really tell, it connects up to a portion of Milton, which is going to be right up here, which is going to be a target delivery area, I'm quite sure. So it'll increase the van traffic on Brigham Hill Road. It's a nice shortcut to get up there, other than going on Old Stage Road, which is like a way around.
Thank you. Wayne Barlow. Good morning.
So I'm not seeking party status, but I am, interested in testifying as a friend of the commission. And that's for, specifically traffic, as well as the role the town plan plays in Essex's regulations specifically. And then also I would like to comment on what it means to be industrial in the RPDI, because I've heard people say that there's this 60-40% split, and that 40% is for industrial, but that's not how it's actually regulated. How it's regulated is it has to conform to the RPDI regulations, which means it has to be in harmony with nature. And that was found to be, there was a lawsuit in 2014, I believe, that challenged that language as being unconstitutionally vague. And that was in environmental court, and it was found to be totally enforceable. And so this is not, when we look at these parcels, it's important that you don't just, this is not industrial zone. This is not an industrial district. It's part of the RPDI, and it has to be in harmony with the natural surroundings, as well as aesthetically and economically viable. And that's in the regulations as well.
When we hold the hearing, you can come as a friend of the commission and present that testimony, sir. Logan Allen.
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask one thing?
Sure.
When you do come in, would you cite that case so that we're at least aware of this?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, well, good morning.
I'm Logan and live off of Whitetown Lane. I can point it out if you'd like.
Yeah, please do that. That helps.
A little easier to see in this here. But it's essentially right here. This area,
Okay.
and Saxon Hill Road goes down and connects to where the park is there.
Okay. And have you filed one of the written party status petitions?
Yes,
Okay.
4 acres and 4.
And what would you like to supplement that with in terms of your testimony this morning?
Yeah, so I'm mainly focusing on the environmental impacts locally, so criteria 4 and 8 mainly. I can speak on essentially all of them, but I can just focus on that for the party status. I just like to point out that the proposed development overlaps with two BSWI surveyed sensitive wetlands, which are class 2 and 3, and one of them was added in 2023. And I feel that there requires additional research to go into that because it could be in violation of chapter 37. And the proposed new road to this development would actually cut directly through the class 2 wetland. And their proposed spur road would also pave over an area where there's vernal pools and hatching pools. And I have photos of all of this because I've explored that area. So in terms of 8 and aesthetics, I've walked here for many years and used it recreationally, as many people do. It's a very beautiful area, and this road would limit access for recreation. And aesthetically, they would be cutting down a lot of trees, especially with lot 13 with the waiver they're trying to get. Own application, but that would ruin the aesthetics of the area. And I also want to just point out what I've documented there and have photos of. So I've counted at least 24 unique species of bird in the successional forested habitat. There's 4 species of frogs and toads that are identified, newts, 2 distinct species of snakes. I've heard a barred owl in the area multiple times that I've been there. The forested area specifically, and part of the successional area with the wetland, class 2 wetland, is full of vernal pools. And it's used as hatching for amphibians, which, if this were to be paved into a massive parking lot, would become salinated in runoff, and amphibians would not be able to hatch there, or the pools that are paved over, amphibians usually return to where they were born to spawn again. And if they're not able to find those pools, it could result in a population decline. And that could result in quality of life things like overabundance of mosquitoes in the area and just general changes in the environment, because amphibians are very important to the ecosystem. I've also found a cluster of pink lady slipper flowers in the successional area near lot 13, or in the middle of lot 13. And those flowers are indicators of acidic and sandy soils. And I actually haven't found such a concentration like that really anywhere else I've seen in Vermont. So I would personally feel that that should be labeled as critical habitat for that flower, which would impact criterion 8, because a permit could not be granted if it were to significantly impact critical habitat, and that in tandem with under criterion 8, 1 and 2, I believe that the economic, social, cultural, and recreational land being developed would not outweigh what they currently are, and that in tandem with damaging specific habitat for species would be a violation of criterion A. And I know a lot of people that use this as recreation, and it's also listed cultural and social. I mean, if you're an appreciator of the intrinsic value and spiritual value of nature, we shouldn't be cutting down trees and building a spur road that's entirely perspective for what they might be able to build in the other forested areas. It's not even, there's not even a use for it. They just want to build it so they can have it. Yeah, I mean, I can also argue that The development destroys forest blocks and habitat connectors. I've seen and photographed many deer tracks that cut directly through these lots. And there's a stream running adjacent to the road on the left side. And those would severely be impacted by a large parking lot, 2 massive warehouses, and bright lights affects migration patterns.
Okay,
Yeah, oh, and one more thing, I found in the meadow area, lots of milkweed and monarch butterflies, which are currently in the process of being added to the federally protected species under Endangered Species Act. They would be listed as threatened. That's in process in federal court. I don't know when that determination will be made, but I would argue that this is also critical habitat for monarchs and pollinators. And I believe that meadows like this are super important to be preserved. And shouldn't be viewed as, you know, sort of this utilitarian view of like, oh, it's just a meadow, we can build there. But it's important to know as well that that area is important for pollinators and drainage and runoff, as it's sandy soil on top of clay. And if that's disturbed more than it already is, I worry with a huge impermeable surface, there would be like an intense amount of increased runoff that that type of soil wouldn't be able to handle. And it would end up in a more loamy soil, which is on the southwestern corner of lot 13. So everything would drain into that area and cause undue soil erosion, which is violation of criteria 4. And that of course would eventually lead into the Winooski River as well. Yeah, that's essentially
Okay.
all.
thank you. Lisa Allen.
I live with Logan, the same residence, so right up the road, Saxon Hill Road. I could talk about criteria 1, undue water and air pollution. I was invited to do this process before Label went in, and I didn't, and now I wish I did, because we have toxic smell coming from our noise, and so I'm trying to prevent more pollution on top of that and noise. I'm also worried about the trucks idling all night and driving in and out of that area, which would cause some water pollution, of course. Speaking about criteria number 5, I drive through the intersection of Sand Hill and 117 twice a day to work. It's very icy in the winter, and it's scary if there's a truck behind you trying to get down that hill and you're putting on the brakes, trying to slip and by. We have tractor trailers behind you. So I think that would cause unreasonable and unsafe conditions. On my way home, I take Williston Road, North Williston Road. That starts backing up around 3:30. And I can't imagine trying to take a left out of there with additional traffic and tractor trailers, and people go very fast on that road. You have to really just find the right timing to get in between those cars, and I'm worried about how unsafe that will be. There's also a lot of blind curves on this road. Skunk Hollow Road also comes down to 117. I can barely see around the curve to make a left. If there's a tractor trailer barreling down, I think that would be very tragic if there was an accident that happened there. And for number 8, basically cutting down everything would cause an adverse effect on the signs, the scenic natural beauty of the area, and irreplaceable natural areas. There's meadows, vernal pools, wildflowers, lots of bees, wetlands, open white pine, bees, frogs, deer over winter there. I didn't realize would include that spur off to the right. That is actually, I believe that's where the backfill goes. I use that when I go cross country skiing. By spring, it's stopping wet. I have to take off my skis and try to go around there. So there's some streams that cut through there. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I think that eastern road is the bad trail. So that would be part of recreation. Also, the way it's designed, it would break up wildlife connectivity. Wildlife trying to go from one area to the other with big warehouses in between. I know they're also asking for a waiver for a buffer zone for more salt tolerant trees, that's because there will be so much salt runoff that it will kill a lot of things that are right around that area. So that's why they're trying to put salt tolerant trees, because they know it has an effect in that whole landscape.
Thank you. Ann Miller. Morning.
A lot of papers here, all of which I made actually, don't need. My name's Ann Miller, I live at 60 Sydney Drive. I am 3.8 miles from the proposed development. I go twice a week to a business, on Clara Hill Road, which is right off Clara Hill Lane. It's right off of Sand Hill Road. I'm right past the park. I use the park, as well. And, I go to the pickleball place over on Red Pine Circle. So I'm in that facility has no air conditioning. So I will get to that. But so my point being that I use the resources of the town. We mountain bike at Saxon Hill. My son likes to fish. We use a lot of resources. My son is also a first responder. So with respect to, it's very hard to separate some of the environmental effects under criterion 1 from 5. So my remarks kind of go across both of those things. So I am concerned about our sensitive watershed and that runoff from this development, the steep slopes that we saw today walking them, and especially the idea of the cumulative effects, right? It's not just each individual development has its own effect, but what have we done overall? Yes. So I am concerned about that and then how the RPDI was designed to protect our river corridors by reducing runoff, soil erosion, and pollutant. And so if you read in the actual RPDI document, it says the objective of the RPDI and related OI district parcel is to protect such natural attributes for public enjoyment and to carry out development activities in harmony with the natural surroundings. So when you start erecting spec warehouses, which have no specific purpose, actually just intention to rent it to someone lease it to someone in the future, there's no, it's not a development activity in harmony with the natural surroundings. It's not, and I'm not anti-development. I just think we have to be thinking about what we're doing with respect to the regulations that are in effect. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, other people have mentioned this idea about increased road salt. And in the Science of the Total Environment publication in 2022, road salt persists as an environmental contaminant because of its chemical stability. It's considered a forever contaminant, that it remains indefinitely in the environment without significant degradation, and that the effect of chloride, which would get down to the cellular level, that is well in this conversation, will ultimately kill off fish, amphibian, plants. I don't want us to see. My son loves to fish. I want to protect our environment and our watershed. So the issue about air pollution is really on my mind, and I don't know if it relates exactly to So I just want to talk briefly about this. I brought a picture of this. I don't think people really think about it very much. Okay, I'm talking about particulate matter 2.5, which is 2.5 micron, very small particle. Yeah, so human hair is 50 to 70 microns. Pollen, dust, and mold are about 10 microns. And PM 2.5 are the super small particles. What? So yeah, so that's the point of this, is that actually the super small ones, you think you might be safe because they're small, but the super small ones go very deep into your lungs. And so they also travel very far. We know that PM 2.5 travel very far because we see wildfire smoke. And that is PM 2.5, particulate matter that is coming to us from very far away. So the issue about wildfire smoke, I don't want to confuse these two things. Wildfire smoke is actually more dangerous because it is the result of the combustion of a whole bunch of things that we don't really know, right? Cars, homes, whatever gets, devoured by that fire. But PM 2.5 in this case, with this particular application, results from traffic, from truck traffic, from, delivery vehicle traffic. So where does it come from? It comes from combustion of fuel, fossil fuels that run these vehicles. Diesel fuel creates more, but also regular old gas engines generate PM 2.5, and the surface of the road between the tire and the road, that also generates 2.5. So I think, the thing that I want you to understand is that this seems like this is nothing. This is 2.5. I see people out running when we have wildfire smoke, and I'm like, they do not understand the health risk associated with small, very small particles. Okay, so it reported in the Journal of Thoracic Disease. This is my category. Yeah. Yeah.
I really need you to say, you think more trucks, more air pollution, that's gonna be harmful.
Yeah, it's going to be.
For
it's really
purposes of
harmful.
the party status
Yes.
dialogue here.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so the only thing I would like to mention to you is to also consider like the cumulative effects, right? So you have the effect from gravel, you have existing delivery services that are generating PM 2.5, yes? Then you have this particular parcel that's gonna generate 2.5, and then the sand pit extraction could generate at maximum operating capacity 200 trips a day of trucks carrying 10 cubic yards of sand, which if the sand's not too wet, is about 20 tons of sand per truck. 200 trucks a day in a 10-hour day, that's 20 trucks an hour going out. That's a lot of particulate matter being generated by truck traffic, and it will be onto Chemo Road. So I think that, one other thing to understand, and it relates to our community. I'm sorry, I know you want to just know like the very short answer, but in young children, their lungs are not as developed as adult lungs. And so exposure to 2.5 is even more important in young kids who are walking from school to Sand Hill Park, who are in our neighborhoods, because this travels hundreds of miles. So that young kids don't have developed lungs. They breathe more rapidly, and so they have more exposure. So it's something that, if I hadn't spent the last 5 years of my life studying respiratory health in the COVID-19 pandemic, I wouldn't have all of these, resources. The average person doesn't know that, but I'm saying like we need to be really mindful of that impact. With respect to the noise, I do believe I ran my NIOSH noise meter, NIOSH National Institute of Occupational Safety noise meter today when we were walking around to understand what that noise level is there. With the frequency and intensity of engine braking, that already has a negative impact on our quiet areas. It's not actually, it's harmful to be exposed to elevated noise levels for an extended period of time, and there are established tables for that. So I am concerned about habitat loss, as other people have mentioned. I don't want to repeat. And then the other thing that I would just say is that, again, I believe that this application is not in conformance with our town planning goals, and it's not in line with the RPDI conservation objectives as said before. So that's my short answer. I will say the congestion, the traffic also, I think, poses a general risk, like the first responders being able to get out to respond to anybody in town who has an emergency. If the road is blocked or has a lot of heavy traffic, we're just not, our infrastructure isn't set up for that. I think infrastructure might be 7. We're just 300 plus trucks a day from one warehouse plus sand trucks. It's a lot of wear and tear on our infrastructure, and it poses a real hazard to be able to get an ambulance, fire truck to a place if it's crowded. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question that might go to party status, at least help me understand a little bit, if you don't mind. This is the applicant. When you had talked about the 60-40 industrial versus recreation or preservation, does that include lot 9, or is lot 9 all conservation? Is that going to the town?
So lot 9 is the remaining developable
It's
portion.
not, the way I look at the solution, it's not remaining. It's just a lot. We're creating a 5th lot. So it's not really remaining. it's
Correct.
part of the subdivision.
I use the term remaining lands as the
So from
subdivision
your
term,
perspective-
meaning that's what's left over.
But it's not left over from our perspective, right? I mean, we're creating this
It's
fifth lot,
Lot 5.
lot 5, right? But
Yeah.
say it was just this little piece. I mean, it's still, we're creating the fifth lot.
Correct, that's why
Right.
it's a lot.
So if that's gonna be all conservation or no,
It's
how's the
not.
60/40 work?
The remaining, we're calling it lot 9. It's the 5th lot in the subdivision,
Right.
but we're keeping the same naming convention from phase 1.
Okay,
In the subdivision context, the remaining lands, the last part of parcel B left over from the phase 1 subdivision was the 9th lot. So it's lot 9.
in your
We're
head,
keeping that naming convention,
right?
or it's the 5th lot here, but either way, it's labeled on the plans as lot 9. So
Okay.
lot 9 is the remaining developable portion within the industrial park.
So where's the 60/40? Well, first of all, so it's not gonna be conservation land, so it is gonna affect theoretically people at that end of the development, right?
So when that area gets developed, we'll have to submit another amendment application to you folks.
Okay.
So we're not proposing development on the 9th lot.
Okay,
At
how
this
about
point.
12 and 10?
12 and 10 are developable lots. When a site plan is formulated and we get site plan approval from the local folks, we'll be back in front of you for a -21A amendment for
Okay.
every lot that.
So I think I misinterpreted then. For some reason, I thought 10 and 12 were gonna be going to the town, something not developable.
Nope, the land.
All right, thank you.
Sure, so long history here, and we can address this in a brief if you want. And we've talked to the commission about this before and our other applications. This land was roughly 700 acres that the village actually owned, back in the 60s. It was the water system area for the village. When the village ended up transferring to Champlain Water District, they sold the land, and they sold it to a developer, and they created this RPDI district. And the intent of it, it was in the 30s, it was called the sand blow, because there was a ton of sand, the Sand Hill Road in this area. And you'll see the high, tall pine trees that, the 85-foot pine trees. If you look on the ortho photo, you can see that they're in many parts of the park, they were plantation pines that were planted by the village to enhance their water district. And when the property was put into private hands, when the village sold it, they created the RPDI, and the intent was to create 60%. It was intended as a flex zoning that allowed 60% of that 700+ acre parcel to be conserved and 40% to be developed, but it didn't say where. And as you can imagine, over the ensuing years, a lot of conflicts arose. There were easements granted to the public throughout the entire property for trails, public access. And so conflicts arose between public and development because the development area wasn't precisely laid out, and it was just kind of an incremental move through the park. And then in 2016, our client and the town entered into a settlement agreement to try to resolve conflicts. See, we didn't do that great a job. But as part of that settlement, instead of the developer holding the 60% and having it be conserved and it being in a kind of a flex situation, instead, there was a long negotiation with the town where the town said, let's lay out the areas where the town wants to own the property for future conservation. And we will set aside the 40% that the developer will retain with the intent that, I can read you the quote in a minute, the intent that will be the area designated for future development. And that's why when you look at the funny parcel, it's like a barbell. And the reason for that, it's a single lot owned by the developer, contiguous all the way through, that the barbell part of the bell is where the town said, okay, this is where the future road is going to go to connect these future development pods. So these pods, the parcel B pods and parcel A, is where the negotiation by the town said, this is where you're directed to develop, and you will deed to us all of parcel C and all of parcel D to the town to be held perpetually as conservation. And that happened in 2016.
And that's the 60%.
Yes, the town owns
Okay.
that land. And then if I could just, I'll read you this and this may help. This is out of this agreement with the town. It says it's the intention of the parties that all of the lands being retained by Allenbrook, except the retained buffers, and I can talk about that in a minute, will be classified as 40% developable lands under the RPDI, and that Allenbrook's retained lands will no longer be subject to a 60-40 split. Instead, all of Allenbrook's retained lands shown on the plat, except for the retained buffers, will be classified as part of the 40% and will be available for future development, subject to satisfying the remaining requirements of the RPDI. You've got your zoning setbacks and things like that. But that was the intent, to try to resolve the, where's the conservation?
One final quick question. Lot A, or parcel A, is not part of lot 9.
No, that's always separate. Yeah.
Thank you. So, but B is, right, the remaining B.
Yes, I think when Brian was retained, I think you're not proposing any development on that retained land right now.
That's correct.
Or on 12, the only one that's proposed development is 11, correct?
But I think the distinction would be correct, lot 11 is the only lot proposed for site plan construction approval. The other 3 of the 4 lots is for future amendments to build buildings. But I don't think we're asking for building approval for anything, to be able, the retained land, we would need to come back and reconfigure things to be able to even talk about having a building on that.
Okay. That helps. Thank you.
Gina, you're gonna call on Gina Barrett.
Yeah, something down.
I'm sorry.
Actually, can I just, make a point about what he just said?
You may have to do that at the hearing.
Can I show you where I live?
Please, thank you.
Is this a good, is this a good
Yeah.
map? Okay.
Yeah, this will work.
I don't understand what was the purpose of him giving that history, if not to be,
Let me just say, from my perspective, it helped me understand how close people are to what is being discussed here.
and that was my intention as well. This to also, and so if I may just quickly say that everything he said was really correct. It was correct and it was helpful, because this is part of the history of this area, and it's very important to have that context, because some of these regulations might seem burdensome if you don't know that history. All the landowners that came into this knew this rich history, and so it is very important. And the last thing that he said was that these areas are subject to the RPDI, so they're not just industrial. Thank you for the opportunity.
And it used to actually be 60-25-15, and the 15% was reserved until the settlement, and then they pushed the 15. The 15% was kind of was leaning towards conservation, and then they pushed it into the 40. So it really, the original intent from the 70s was kind of a, not 60-40, it was 60-25-15. That wasn't supposed to be involved. Anyway, this is where I live, right there. My house, I think, on that corner. This is all a resource preservation district. So we're talking about this, but it goes all the way up and around there. Except for not that, but up there. But I live right there. So I'm on Sand Hill Road. The school, this is the school road. There's 2 schools down there. There's another school up there. The town park is right there with the town pool. So I'm going to address 5, 7, 8, and 10. I'll start with 10 and repeat what Ann said, that the resource preservation district is the objective that we voted on in the town plan is to carry out development activities in harmony with the natural surroundings. This, I believe, includes a 50-foot waiver. There's supposed to be a 50-foot buffer. They keep waiving the buffer repeatedly in RPD district, which has greatly affected my house. These are huge warehouse lots right behind us. So the screening, the wildlife, everything behind our house, their quality of life, the noise has just increased. It's made the quality of life worse. And the other thing to note is this Alan Martin, this one?
Yep.
Yeah. So on Sand Hill, we had the town made trucking weight limits that stop right there. So the trucks, larger trucks can come up the bottom of Sand Hill and turn up Alan Martin. They can't go up on the neighborhood, but a lot of these proposals seem to have smaller vans and trucks. that will then pour up where all the schools and the school buses are. When I sit in my front yard, I see school buses, kids, it's constant traffic, and it's neighborhood kind of traffic. It's school buses, people walking the park, people walking the pool, community kind of traffic, not truck. It's not supposed to be trucking. And I will read what for 7, in an email dated 3/7/25, the Essex Fire Department provided the following comments. They said, reference to a project that's proposed on one of those lots, they should be required to complete the road through to Thompson Drive with no exceptions and no delays. This will generate substantial traffic all to one choke point and will result in substantial risk for crashes in winter due to the topography. In addition, it will then create increased traffic going up Sand Hill Road, which will then increase the risk of crashes, all of which will impose additional demands on the fire department. So that's for that one. And then that's it. Weight restriction on upper Sand Hill that we will lose. If it's smaller, if it's warehouses with smaller trucks and vans, they will be allowed to go by our house, which is already backed up incredibly. And I'm also concerned about once we went to the site to watch the curve down River Road, I'm not sure how tractor trailers are going to be taking a left down that hill and trying to take a left, cutting across. North Wilson Road floods out a lot and closes often. So if they can't get down North Wilson Road to make any deliveries towards Williston or Shelburne, they're going to be cutting through down River Road towards the junction or up Sand Hill back onto 15 and down there. And I also agree with everything environmentally that Logan mentioned. This is what I can show you too. When we bought our house, when they talk about in harmony, this is my house. This is what was behind my house. This is how they developed it. They put trees in the parking lot all the way through. Trees all the way up to the building, trees all the way up to the building. This is what it looked like when we bought our house. This is not in harmony. This is my house. My house has this in my backyard. The sound, there's no buffers. There's no berm. The sound just bounces between these giant buildings right into our backyard. All the time, 24/7. And they keep cutting down the buffers on Corporate Drive. There's supposed to be a 50-foot buffer, like they waived on this project. And those buffers are gone. You can see right through from Sand Hill Road onto Corporate Drive now. And the noise generated from this into our neighborhood is great. And it's not what anyone in the community should live with. You don't see the school.
Lorraine Zalone, please.
Hi, Lorraine Bloom. I live on 74th Center Road. That helps you if you want to put that on the map. I'm right on Route 15. And so I'm subject to a lot of traffic and impacts from the development of the RPDI area. Also, just as an overview, I appreciate the overview from the applicant because really, unfortunately, that whole area should have been preserved. We should have bought it. And there was a town vote actually at the time that Essex Junction put it up for sale. And it was overwhelmingly from both the municipalities. Essex Junction was nested inside of Essex Town. And at the time, both districts overwhelmingly voted to preserve it. And instead, the elders decided to privatize it, unfortunately. It was a big disservice to the town. I work in distribution and plumbing. And so one of my struggles is certainly our distribution corridors and the placement of this particular development in RPD is because it is it's a large part of our municipal watershed. And certainly we've seen the impacts of not planning right in the long term and what happened in Lucy and Barry, Montpelier and Barry. With the increased flooding that I see at the bottom of 117, and I look at certainly what the Regional Planning Commission is doing, it is a consistent issue with the state and our regional planning is the increasing of the flooding on the bottom of that RPD zone. And I'm also concerned because to the right of that is an industrial zone that the applicant also purchased 300 more acres, and that connector, that spur, he is hoping to actually connect so he can develop that industrial area as well. So there'll be even more trees. So we talk about cumulative impacts. This is just the slow death by 1,000 cuts because we fragment the discussion. And when we do that, sure, what's one more, right? So where I live on Route 15, I don't know if anyone on this panel is familiar with Route 15, but Sand Hill goes through from 117 up to 15. And Sand Hill, according to the Wentz traffic studies, they were doing a number of scoping studies. And Wentz identified Route 2 to North Williston Road to Sand Hill Road and Al Martin Drive, the bifurcates off that onto 15, back onto 2A, back onto 2. It is a regional transportation corridor. And I don't know if you are familiar with riding on any of those roads, but they are certainly not ready for the pace of development that's happening. My concern is the pace of the development. We're outpacing our infrastructure. We're in trouble, certainly at the federal and state level, in terms of being able to fund the projects that are scheduled. There's projects scheduled by the RPC, the Regional Planning Commission, for the 117 and North Williston Road intersection, which I don't know if you could see that when you looked at the bottom of the site visit today. When you look to the left, I'm not sure if you can see that North Williston Road, but I don't think you can. But it is plagued with traffic issues. It's plagued with accidents. It's plagued with flooding. And when we looked back at some of the history of it, back in 2011, I believe, they quantified the cost each time there was a flooding event at $3,000 per as an impact on our services in terms of the police going there, the fire going there, cleanup, and so on and so forth. So we have a situation where we're trying to cram even more warehouse development and distribution in an area that's not near an interstate. And it's still using local highways, which were not built for that level of traffic, and certainly not built for the weight of the trucks that go on that area. And I'm sorry for speaking generally because a lot of this overlaps many of the criteria. So I'm kind of speaking in general terms. Certainly air pollution, traffic issues. When I do recommend, I look at the state queries traffic accident level. I looked at it in my area, a very short area. In fact, I used one of the O'Leary Burke's traffic studies to do some of the research. The traffic study that O'Leary Burke referenced said that we had 17,100 cars per day on my stretch of road. So Sand Hill goes right up to 15, hits the four corners and turns left right in front of my house. My house is part of the Wentz corridor. So back then in 2021, in their traffic study, they had identified about 17,100 cars per day. Certainly in 2025 now, post-COVID, because certainly during COVID, we saw that traffic was diminished. I think that we're back up to post-COVID levels. I looked at my traffic on my small stretch from Upper Main Street, which is Route 15, to Center Road, which my 15 is called, and then also Jericho Road, which goes down by the schools. There's a huge concentration of schools there as well. The truck traffic goes right by all of that, and I'm very concerned about particulate matter. I accidentally discovered, I was taking care of my father-in-law at home, so when we had people coming to the house, so I did a Corsi box. I don't know if people are familiar with a Corsi box, but it's a homemade air filter system, and you use MERV 14 size just to grab smaller particulate matter. And so my husband and I are fortunate enough to have saved enough money to have an air filter system added into our home, because after I built that Corsi box, like, holy cow, that's what I'm breathing on a regular basis. This filter was at 5 months. This is what a new filter looks like. This, I'm sure, has some lovely diesel particulate matter on it. There's very little setback from the residential homes on my stretch. We're not our homes aren't worth as much as many of the homes that are off the road. Let's just say that. There's a lot of Section 8 people. Also, I'm really alarmed because the other day when I looked out my window, two of the toddlers, they had a playpen that was right on this road. It's right there. So that's a business district that's has childcare. There are 2 childcares. There's also a playground now made right there, and the children are breathing this. So I'm very concerned about the level of traffic that's happened without a real accounting and a real study. The bigger part of the problem to me is that we have not been following our town plan for over a decade. So just to cite some of the town plan issues, I saw on page 8, section 1S2, development shall be consistent with Essex rules as a sub-regional growth center, which I speak about for rents, with the scale of development supportable by market derived from Essex and the surrounding communities. And when I looked at housing, which we all know in the state is in crisis, I saw that in our little town of Essex, with approximately 11,000 people, we have not enough homes to even register for vacancies. We see that I see all over looking for, staff. Our local employers can't find enough staff. How are we gonna build more without having enough staff? We can't find enough staff for our fire department. We can't find enough staff for our police department. These are gonna add more impacts to that. My taxes keep going up. If that helped my tax base, with all the development that's happened, by now my taxes should have gone down. They are not going down, they're rapidly rising. As we have to increase staff, it certainly increases the healthcare costs and so on and so forth. So bottom line to my pocket is, this is not working. Page 10, section 2, economic growth shall be diversified. I don't see, it's hard to know whether there's diversification because all I keep seeing is more distribution warehouses. I also see, because I'm in plumbing, empty distribution warehouses sitting there because they're built on spec and then they're not used. So we're cutting trees down for what? So how are we diversifying businesses that are coming here? One of the businesses proposed that I know, certainly we're not hearing on today, Amazon does not bring any more diversity in that we already receive Amazon packages. And certainly in terms of diversifying an economic base, it's not bringing better paying jobs. It's bringing jobs that will pull from our other employers that are already serving.
Okay.
On page 12, section 2S2, transportation system related decisions shall include consideration of how those decisions may support or hinder economic development goals. We're also losing our Saxon Hill bus.
So I'm gonna, you're generally saying that the proposal doesn't conform to the town plan.
Correct. And
I
the
think,
shells.
I think we can
Go from there.
go from there from now. Anything?
And of course, you've seen, my air pollution. Also, I wanted to show, this is my biggest concern really, is just that because of that the FEMA floodplain that's at the bottom, we just keep, you saw how steep that road was. And as I'm walking down the road, I'm like, okay, that's just another plume of salt, phosphorus going right into the river. We all see the blue algae blooms that are happening. We all see that's affecting our water supply and adding more cost because we're pushing development ahead of the infrastructure to handle that development. It's just this clear chipping away. And certainly for, which I heard during the site visit, Brian, I think you have moved on, Brian Courier, who represents the client here today, say something to the effect, well, when I was asking about burying the utility lines, so they've already gotten a pass to not bury utility lines, which again is against our town plan in terms of shall, because now you have an opportunity for a new road to bury the lines for flood resilience, for aesthetic, for a number of reasons we want to bury the line. And he said today they weren't going to bury the line. And but the reason he said was because of the precedent before that we gave all these waivers. That is proof that we're not following the rules and regulations and have not for years. For years, we counted 19 plus waivers in that area by our planning commission and at the time. Now we've moved to a DRB, so they haven't had a role in this long, cumulative, painful impact on all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Harold Van Epps. Good morning. So morning?
Sure.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. find my mouse again.
So I live at 8 Rustic Drive, it's in Pinewood Manor.
Rustic, did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, Rustic. The 289, that was. Okay. Yeah, right. So let's see, start with number 1. We have been talking about air pollution. I suffer asthma, and as it stands, the dust and particulates coming off of 117 give me asthma, and you can see we're pretty close to the street. We are having trees cut down as they develop in our neighborhood, Pinewood Manor, and that removes a buffer that cleanses the air. And I feel like I'm having asthma more frequently during the springtime when before the pollen starts coming out. So this is the residue that's left on the winter time on the roads being picked up by the traffic. I walk along these streets really close to 289. And because they're developing, so this is a new development, they're tearing down the trees, and I hear 289 traffic a lot more than I used to when this was still wooded area. So the noise we need those trees to buffer noise for us. And with the clearing of trees, we're going to have even more traffic being heard constantly. I suffered a TBI, a traumatic brain injury, and it's a moderate level. So whenever the train went by, I felt like it was next door to me. And the traffic, the constant motors humming really gave me a headache, and it further worsened my TBI symptoms. So that was an issue for me. I'm at the point where I've recovered enough. It's less of a nuisance. But at that point, it was terrible. Let's see what else to tell you about. So air pollution. What I noticed with the removal of the trees here, I could tell the difference in heat. The exposure of the sand, soil, without the trees giving us shade, and they allow areas where it's humid, transpiration occurs. When that's removed, you're creating a heat island. And that's what we're going to do with the asphalt, the concrete, the warehouse. We're going to lose that. And we had 2 drought spells when we had the sponging off. They came in when the drought was occurring. I was afraid of forest fires because some of our new neighbors would light yard fires for the yard debris. I was afraid because of the dryness, because of the heat, the lack of rain. I was afraid of losing my house for that reason. So this is another thing I'm concerned about. And I don't know which criteria that fits under, but there you go. Let's see, we'll go to number 4, soil erosion. As I was walking, I observed some erosion taking place to the sides of the road where it was excavated. I don't see much topsoil. When you remove trees and roots, the roots prevent soil from eroding. We have an area where the power lines go through, and it's very steep and sandy there. Well, when they keep clear cutting, we soon get a gully. It looks like a sand dune, basically. So this is not far away, similar soil. That's what we're seeing in our area. Let's see. So that's my concern for soil erosion. 5 is traffic and transportation. When we exit Pinewood, we have to turn left. Sorry, that's the right. When we go to Paul Moz's for our veggies, which is weekly, I have to take a left, and to get out, I have to take another left. All that traffic, it is scary for even me, an experienced driver. I have a son who's young 20s. At his age, I totaled my car. I'm afraid for him driving, especially when you have to know how fast you can take that left turn. You're coming out of gravelly road or driveway onto the road with these big trucks going over 40 miles per hour. They're doing over 45 at times. I'm very much afraid for myself, for my son, for our car. Let's see, at Maple Street Park. So I'm here, but Maple Street is further on me. It turns into Maple Street 117. I'm afraid for the kids at ADL. They cross the street all the time. I'm very nervous because if the kids in the bike lane make a false move or wipe out, they're right in front of me. I'm very concerned about large vehicles, vans, the frequency of them coming by ADL area. They have sports games, so the families are constantly walking across that street, Maple Street, to get to the park to play the game. And they come back, they park across the street at ADL. So there's a constant pedestrian traffic that's going to be hit by additional traffic that we're going to be seeing. I'm afraid for them too. That's 5, 7 municipal services. Right now, we are taxing Essex Town's residents to the max. A lot of people I know are talking about leaving Vermont because it's just too expensive to stay here. We're being taxed because we have to pay for these municipal services. We have to wait a long time for streets to be done. I can point at one street in particular, Creek Road, is terrible. It's on a very steep slope and it has to be maintained, repaved frequently. I don't know the engineering behind this reason why, but I foresee something similarly happening into this property because of the slope and similar soil quality. So that means we're going to be paying for even more services to be done for maintenance, salt treatment, repaving, whatnot. Yeah, okay. So number 8, aesthetics. I take the train to DC and we go past the industrial areas of major cities and I see just what conditions people live in. And I'm wondering where we're going with creating all of these warehouses, creating an industrial like area. So for aesthetics, I'm just wondering who would want to recreate there when we know there are green areas that are more attractive. I would prefer there. I walk through my neighborhood, it's very quiet. Neighboring residents from Lang Farms and even from Essex Junction come over and walk through our neighborhoods because they're wooded lots. They are aesthetically more pleasing, more shade for their pets, and in the summertime, it's important. 8B, necessary wildlife habitat. We're getting deer are frequently roaming throughout our neighborhood. We are wooded lots. Where are they coming from? Some are crossing 289. So guess where they're coming from? Other wooded areas. We have a bear. He has been migrating through our neighborhood. He trashed my neighbors. And it's going down Brickyard into Essex Junction. Why? To look for food. I noticed food sources on our walk. I saw cherry trees, choke cherry, saw beech. These are bear food sources, white oak, also for deer. When we clear out food sources, they're gonna be coming into our neighborhoods looking for food there. I also saw hemlocks. These are deer wintering areas. Fortunately, a lot of our hemlock were wiped out because of the new development in our Pinewood Manor area. We saw evidence on our winter walks of deer bedding down and poo and browsing. We saw that in our area. So I wonder, because you have some gorgeous hemlocks here, even much finer than ours. I'm wondering what's gonna, are we affecting the deer population when these are very valuable sites, these deer wintering sites? That's 8. Let's see, 10. And the local, I'll keep it short, local regional plans. Again, looking at the town plan, there's precedents. I wonder if we're creating precedents that is going the wrong direction here. We want to stay in harmony, as the town plan says, with nature. And are we looking at diversity in our economy? Another one of my wonders for the plans for our land use. Thank you for listening to me. If you have any questions.
You. Does the applicant have any general comments about party status, the party status request?
If you're gonna request written responses, we'd like to respond to each in writing.
Okay.
We do have Scott Dillon on remote.
He's a statutory party. Well, Scott, do you have anything you'd like to add at this juncture?
No, I am like you said, a statutory party. I will be providing comments on the historic sites aspect of criterion 8 for the proposed application.
Okay. The commission is going to take a short recess and convene next door to see if we think we've accomplished everything we need to. So we'll take a 10-minute break. Thank you. Yes, so we're back in session here. Thank you for your patience. We are tell you what we think we want to do. Check. That last week's a short week.
We could do the 21st or the 28th, the week, either of those weeks, I think, per the timeline you just sent.
And Mondays are a little bit of a jolt, but
Well,
what dates were you saying?
I think that to do the timeline we just had talked about, we could do a hearing the week of the 21st or the 28th.
Yeah, okay.
Would be the
Thank you.
21st would be the earliest, I think.
So, the commission has deliberated a bit, and the upshot of that is that we're going to send out an order in a couple of days asking for some clarifications about party status requests, because we have some of the petitions in writing that state criterion numbers. Some of the people who filed those, they signed in today, wrote down some different ones. And then some of the testimony was hard to peg on them. So we're going to be asking those folks to write back and say, be specific and be realistic about your testimony, what you can actually cover with respect to each one of the criterion you want to be considered for. Following that, we will give the applicant, if the applicant chooses to comment on party status. And then we think we'd like to schedule a day-long hearing for the last week or so of July, because that back and forth will take a little while. And the earliest we could do.
The week of the 21st is like the earliest we could do it. It sounds like maybe, are you thinking the last week of July? Is that better for you, Tom? I think if we can do it the week of the 21st, we should try to get something on the schedule just to.
I know how much fun people want to do on Fridays and Mondays.
Tuesdays and Thursdays are better for me.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. Wednesday, July 23. How does that strike you all?
Wednesday's not good for me. Tuesday and Thursdays are better.
Oh, I thought you said it was the opposite.
No, Tuesdays and
He
Thursdays
said that, I
are
was like,
better.
oh man, just totally ignoring him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
No,
Not
okay.
assertive
Then,
enough.
okay, wrong. Thursday, July 24th.
Perfect.
And do you know what that does for you? Will you be?
I'll see you in Newfoundland.
Okay, you'll be
So we'll
in the
check with
provinces.
Parker and
I know that I expect that we will be asking for briefing after we hold the hearing on the town plan issues that have come up. I don't think we need that now, but I think ultimately we'll need to know whether and to what extent the town plan is the court decisions sometimes refer to town plans as aspirational or visionary for what the town wants to see happen versus the zoning ordinance, which says this is what shall happen or shall not happen in this particular zoning district. So we'll count on us asking for that. And the persons who are ultimately granted party status may want to confer and collaborate to see how they can most effectively present testimony across the board. That to see, help us see if we can do this in one day. Do we need to check whether this room is available?
I could find something else locally
Okay,
if we needed
okay.
to. We could use a town hall office or something.
Yeah, sometimes we do it, go to a town office building.
Friend, does your team know if that date works? Jen, is there any hard know that the 24th won't work for any of your team at this point?
I think it should be okay. I have
Okay.
to check with some of their family members.
Okay.
This room is available. Okay, thanks, Steph, for checking.
Okay.
I did just want to ask, okay, it looks like Jared has.
Mr. Carter, proceed.
Thank you. Just a clarifying question. The hearing that we're discussing would be a hearing on whether and who would be granted party status. Am I understanding that correctly?
No. Now we will, once we get the
Mhm.
responses to our request for clarification,
Mhm.
As to which criteria each person is requesting status under, we will issue a order on party status requests. And the hearing on the 24th of July will be a merits hearing.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, just to clarify for Mr. Carter, I think also the justification for the group that you've got and the members as well.
Yeah, we'll throw that in the order.
And not
Right.
to say that folks who, friends of the commission are welcome to come to the hearing and
Yes.
folks that just want to listen as well, of course.
Yeah.
I did just want to ask Irene Renner, we do not have any contact info for you, either an email or a mailing address, just if you are interested in receiving the notices for the hearings and the hearing recess orders, if you just wanted to share an email so you can be included, it's up to you.
I'm pretty well connected. Thanks.
Okay.
If there is nothing else for us to do, we will adjourn the pre-hearing conference at 12.
Recess.
Reset it at 12:56. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.